Welcome to Let's Talk Stocks. I'm your host, Fitzroy Prendergast, and we have a very interesting personality with us this morning, and we have the president of Jampro, Shullette Cox. Welcome, Shullette.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we want to look at the recently concluded mission. Of course, the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, and Jampro, as well as the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority, partnered so as to facilitate the ministerial mission to Latin America. I want to talk to you about, one, the reason for it, and how do you think we were received in terms of the pitches that we made in various meetings, and what are the potential for growth in that market?
All right, so first off, the reason for going. So we have been doing these ministerial-led export and investment business missions now, I would say, for the last 18 months. And we've gone to a number of different markets. Last year, we went to Guyana, Trinidad, Domrep. We went to the US, specifically Miami, Atlanta, Washington, New York. We went to Toronto, and we went to the UK. And a lot of those represent very traditional markets for our exporters. The North America, of course, UK, and the Caribbean region. This year, we wanted to not only build on what happened last year in those missions. So far, we've done a mission to Guyana again and a new mission to Suriname for the very first time. We also wanted to introduce new markets, because one of the things that we're very clear on as we try to grow exports, we want to grow it on all fronts. We want to make exporters that are big bigger. We want to make small exporters big. We want to introduce new exporters into the exporting community. And we want to introduce all exporters to new markets beyond what we know already. And so the mission to Latin America was about that. It was very exploratory to introduce Jamaica to these markets. A lot of them know us, but mainly for tourism. And so it was very important for us to meet with key potential partners so that as we try to really make a foothold in these countries, we have someone or somebody that we can work with to make Jamaica known for more than just our tourism product. And so that's the big reason. And when we go on these missions, we have both of our portfolio mandates are taken into consideration, both export and investments. So the minister always says he does not go on a mission without private sector, because we are very clear in Jampro and in our ministry that it is not government that will grow Jamaica, it is the private sector. And so it's very important for us to bring the private sector on these missions with us, not only to meet potential new partners, but also to understand what the business culture is in other countries and devise their own strategies for getting into those countries. And so unfortunately, we didn't have the big mission that we had originally planned. We had Hurricane Beryl coming just a few days before we left for the mission, and a couple of business people, and rightfully so, had to focus on whatever challenges they had. But we did have 8 companies that still came with us on the mission, and we were able to facilitate business meetings for a number of them. And those business meetings ranged from not just identifying buyers of their goods and services, but potential partners, because that is also important. As we try to grow our companies, we also want them to see the opportunities to tap into products that they might not have access to without a partner in hand. And so that was a part of the introductions that we made and the B2B meetings that were held. We also had a number of meetings at the government level with associations. So for example, in Colombia, we met with the Business Process Association and we pitched to them what Jamaica can offer as a country in respect of our global digital services industry. And one of the things that came out of that is a preliminary discussion for our outsourcing companies and our IT companies to be a part of their promotional event that they have annually and that they're hosting next year, May, to see how Jamaica with our English speaking skill set can complement their Spanish speaking skill set and potentially jointly apply for procurement opportunities, not just in Latin America, but across the globe. And so those are some of the things that come up when we talk about partnerships. In Mexico, we had a very good discussion with the Association of Chambers of Commerce, where we introduced them to the opportunities in Jamaica. And the next step now is for us to have a meeting, a webinar with their wider membership, from which they are willing to hold a series of sector roundtables for us to speak specifically to companies that are interested in Jamaica. So when I say that it's exploratory, that's a lot of what we meant. We know that this is not go to the country one time and all the opportunities will unfold, but rather us going into the country to try and start opening doors that will lead us to those opportunities. And I think we definitely did accomplish that on this mission.
Excellent. I was impressed with the presentation that was made, re-tourism. We had some tourism partners, and one of your colleagues made a very passionate presentation about Jamaica's tourism industry, and certainly we had construction personnel as well. And the questions that they were asking ignited my interest in some way, because it told me that they really want to know more about Jamaica, and they're trying to get the information that is required to make the investment possible. How did you read it?
So, what is very interesting about each of these missions is that we always customize what we do on a mission based on the country and the resources that are available to us. So one of the things that we targeted, or one of the sectors that we targeted, was construction and tourism. And for that, we had CEMEX Jamaica, or Caribbean Cement, as a big partner, because as you can imagine, they're very vested in Jamaica's construction industry, and being headquartered in Colombia with large offices in Mexico allowed us to leverage their presence to call in the companies that they are familiar with in that industry, and gave us a very captive audience to make the pitch about the opportunities in tourism. So yes, when we had those discussions, we have a department in Jampro that is dedicated to new markets, and Latin America is a set of new markets that we're looking at. And we recruited so well that the persons in that department are actually fluent Spanish speakers. So we were able to deliver our presentation in Spanish. And let me tell you, when you go into a country, to be able to speak their language is volumes to them, because it shows a level of interest on our part in meeting them where they are. And because of that, and because we were able to remove the language barrier that a lot of people would think that we would have going into market, we were able to connect with them. One of the things that we pride ourselves on Jampro is that we're a marketing agency for Jamaica. When you think about any company that is selling a product, Jamaica is our product. And so we're very aggressive about how we sell the value proposition that Jamaica brings. And when we talk about tourism, is one of the easiest value proposition, because we've done so well and we've shown so much resilience in that area. And I think the openness to work with companies that are in other markets is something that we are definitely looking at. And just to reiterate that one of the things that we say to them is that as a construction company, we're not saying come into Jamaica on your own. We're saying come into Jamaica and meet other developers, meet with other construction companies and partner. Bring your technology here so that we can also build our construction industry, because we are not about only foreigners coming into Jamaica and doing what needs to be done, but we want to make sure that Jamaican companies are a part of that process. And so we actually had a construction company and architectural firm that was a part of the mission, that was able to benefit greatly from meeting those companies. And now the work will continue post-mission to follow up to see how many of those companies will actually be able to identify investment opportunities here that we can facilitate.
Excellent. Now, let's look at Colombia. We had two cities. We went to Bogota and Cartagena. Why those two cities?
So for us, it was a matter of going where the demand for Jamaica was. So
Okay.
we've done the work to say what is happening in that city that will make Jamaica stand out as a product. And there are a number of cities that we could have gone to. And we really did have to whittle it down to those two. So in Bogota, a big selling point there was our partnership with CEMEX in talking to the construction companies, in talking to companies that are in the tourism industry. And that is also the home of the Business Process Association in Colombia. And so those meetings were very important to us. It was also driven by members of the delegation who indicated that Bogota was a city that they think they could find some partners to work with. So that was an easy one for us. Cartagena, however, was one that we had to work a little bit more on. But Cartagena also has a strong tourism and construction industry. And so going into Cartagena, we were able to have one very critical meeting where we had not a lot of people in the room. 30 people was what we targeted and what we got in the room. And easily coming out of that engagement alone, we have approximately 8 or 9 investment opportunities that we're pursuing. So sometimes it's not about the big events, it's about making sure that we have the right people in the room when we're making our pitch. And in Cartagena, again, we did the same presentation, and they did appreciate being able to ask their questions in their language, get their answers, and for us to really have one-on-one discussions during the course of that engagement with them and explaining what the opportunities are. So that was another winner for us to go to Cartagena.
I didn't realize that Manpower benefited so much. I had an interview done with Manpower. I didn't realize that a lot of the things that they sell is from Colombia. And when we did it, they were so ecstatic about what was achieved there. Let's go on to El Salvador. Shorter stop, but certainly a lot of things was achieved. How did you feel about it? Seems a little bit like Jamaica, seems a little bit more, and
I wouldn't even say a little bit. I think they were very similar to Jamaica in where they are and some of what they're doing. And it was a different experience in El Salvador than the other two countries because of where they are developmentally, I think.
Yes.
But we were warmly received by the government of El Salvador. And there, I think, is a commitment on their side to bring a delegation to Jamaica, which is what I think was one of the big outcomes of that engagement. We were also able to very directly engage with the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, which is new. They've been around for a while, but new to us in terms of a potential development partner. And we, through our ministry, were actually looking at a lot of partnerships with that entity to see what they could perhaps be funding in terms of investment opportunities that can be packaged, in terms of promotional activities that can be funded. And so, and we also had a meeting with Jampro's counterpart Invest El Salvador, where we learned a lot from them in terms of some of their best practices that they're currently pursuing. And we are going to be doing a lot more work with them as well. So in each country, as I said, it was exploratory. We went into it not quite sure how we would be received because of the perceptions of Jamaica as a business destination. But at every juncture, we were pleasantly surprised with how many opportunities there were in each country.
So is it fair to say that we exceeded expectations?
We definitely exceeded expectations, and we definitely walked away with a lot more opportunities to be pursued than we could have imagined.
Finally, on the aspect of the business communities joining force and being a part of the delegation, as you indicated, we had an architect with us, we had other persons at different junctures throughout the tour. It's my impression that these meetings they would not have gotten had it not been for Jampro or MIIC, the ministry, opening these doors. How critical is it that Jampro and other, the Special Economic Zone Authority and the team members give them this opportunity so that they can benefit, because probably they would not have under normal circumstances?
Well, I can definitely attest to that, because there is a level of validity that is given by the government's participation and the government's leading in these requests for meetings on two levels. And I have to mention the partnership with Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade as well, because our embassy in Mexico was extremely instrumental in facilitating both El Salvador and Mexican legs of the mission. And their ability, our ability, the ability of the associations that we've made contact with to pick up the phone and make meetings happen is a part of why it's important to have these missions at this level, including being led by a minister of government in Jamaica, because some of those engagements would not happen if it were merely Jampro or the Special Economic Zone Authority going into the country on their own. But the partnership among all of us and the level of validity that gives to a private sector person that is a part of the mission was extremely helpful, to the point where you had some persons that, some of the same people that were supposed to come on the mission but had to cancel because of Hurricane Beryl, we were able to still secure meetings for them virtually, even though they missed physically being there on the mission. And so the work doesn't stop on the start day one of the mission and end on the last day of the mission. The work continues, because for people that weren't able to get those meetings, we continued to support them getting the meetings after we came back. And really and truly, a lot of that push would not have come if they weren't a part of the group. And then certainly there are some discussions, especially when you have more networking type events, that if you're not there physically on the ground, you wouldn't see the opportunity, you wouldn't be able to grab the opportunity just by having a conversation with someone in the room. Excellent. And so I'm sure, and we get it every single time we come back from the mission, we do a survey of how the persons believe the mission went, how well was it planned, how well did it meet their objectives. And I cannot think of a single time where it was not 90% or over saying that the mission met their objectives, that the missions were well planned, and that they got results that they were looking for. Excellent.
I did say final question, but I have one more in terms of you certainly would want to encourage other companies to be a part of missions that you do, because with these openings that they get, with the access that they get, it's a win-win for Jamaican companies. You're talking to a lot of private sector companies and a lot of businesses that we're talking to right now. Talk to me about what would you say to them, if they're on the sidelines, not sure what this is all about. How would you encourage them to benefit and to be a part of this mission?
Well, I would tell them, talk to Jampro. Come in, talk to us. Explain to us what the vision for your business is. Let's see how we can help. Keep in contact with us about the mission so that you can know where we're going, when we're going, what you can expect. And very, very importantly, be willing to invest your time and your money in your own business and the growth of your business. A lot of companies say, boy, I can't take a week off, or the costs look too expensive. But you have to be prepared to invest in your business to reap the returns for these missions, and you have to be actively a part of it. So even though Jampro talks about us setting up B2B meetings, you have to do your research, make sure that this market is right for you, make sure that the opportunities are there for you, and then you have to be willing to do the legwork to make sure that the vision that you have for your business becomes a reality. And we're here as Jampro, as the ministry, as the SEZ authority, to help you get to where you want to be.
Fantastic. I could never have imagined the level of interest that really came through this ministerial mission. Shullette, thank you very much for stopping by.
Definitely.
And we really learned a lot as it relates to the mission, certainly the minister's involvement, certainly your involvement, and of course the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority. All three participated and certainly executed the mission fantastically well. That's it for Let's Talk Stocks this week. Join me next week for another very interesting program. I'm Fitzroy Prendergast.